So I have the great pleasure of introducing Ms. Roberta Guise. As it happens, I'm actually working with her, so I really understand how she does what she does, and she's quite the pro. So in terms of personal branding, what branding is, what do people say about you when you're not in the room? And what do you want them to say? Having a rock solid reputation means that people know about you. They seek you out and laud your work and ideas to others while you make a positive impact in your field. The most effective way for you to shape your reputation is through intentionally developing a purpose-driven personal brand. And in her presentation today, Roberta Guise will share her ideas and process for doing just that. Roberta is the founder of Guise Marketing and PR and creator of the Rock Your Reputation online course. She is a trusted personal branding advisor to executives in transitions, consultants like moi, and professionals on growing their influence with the clarity and confidence to become known as the go-to authority. When she's not advising clients, you can find her swimming in the ice cold waters of the San Francisco Bay, listening to jazz or bird watching. She's from both Israel and the UK. She says she has a funny accent, so don't laugh too hard when she mispronounces words. So let me introduce Roberta.
Thank you so much, Shelley, for inviting me here to speak. And also thank you to Ulrika and to Harry. It's wonderful seeing everybody again. Well, let's get on with this show. Suppose you're a farmer. You've got some milking cows, and they pretty much all look the same. And really the only way you can tell the difference between them is if you put your nose up really close to their ears, and you're going to see a little branding tag. Well, one day you do a quick count of your cows and you go, uh-oh, one's missing, probably gone over to the other farmer who's across the way. How in the heck are you going to identify other than just going over there and starting to look in all of their ears and see what the brand says? And so it is with our own personal brands. How do we not look or come across like everybody else? Well, there is a solution for that. Be a purple cow. Now, you probably all remember Seth Godin's wonderful book from a number of years ago called Appropriately Purple Cow. And in it, he says, essentially, this is how you stand out, that you do things, you are things, you deliver in such a way so that you do become a standout. We're going to look at the kinds of things we can do to stand out and much more as we progress. So as Shelley said, I swim in San Francisco Bay, and that's me swimming from Alcatraz a couple of years ago. If I were to ask you to come and join me in the bay right now, I'm sure you would say, ugh, don't ask me to get into that freezing water. But if I were to tell you, look, if you really love swimming and you dip your toes in once, yeah, it's going to hurt like hell. But each time you come back and you dip your toes in, it's going to get a little bit easier. And what's that got to do with reputation? Well, each time you do something that feels uncomfortable, it gets just a little bit easier. But back to my swimming from Alcatraz. Most people who complete that swim do it, oh, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour tops. Me, almost 2 hours. I'm slow, I get cold. I'm not going to brag about that. But what I am going to tell you that the last hour that I swam this, it was pure mindset that was keeping me in the water, because there's nothing else. When you're cold, you're shivery, and you see that skyline and it just won't get any closer. And you look behind you and you see Alcatraz and it won't get any further away. So what is this about mindset? Well, another book that comes to mind is Carol Dweck's Mindset, and I'm sure many of you come across that one. In a nutshell, she talks about a fixed mindset and growth mindset. Fixed mindset says, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I'm too busy. You know, leave me alone right now. I've got way too many things on my plate, or, ugh, that feels too yucky. Any number of excuses and reasons and justifications why we shouldn't do a particular thing. And of course, in our case, this is around what we should be doing to be visible and get known, right? But then we've got that growth mindset that says, I wonder, you start asking that question in curiosity. I wonder what would happen if I were to, and you fill in the blank. And that's where the change starts to happen. Where anytime you come up, even if it's something you already want to do, but you start asking those critical questions, which are, what would happen if I were to do that? How could I do it? Do I need to get somebody to help me? And, you know, a colleague or somebody, I know that they've done this. I wonder what they would say about it. So keep in mind mindset as we continue on. This brings us back to fear and the fear factor, which is a real issue. And this is a true story. I have a client back east who's an angel investor. She's also an entrepreneur. She co-founded a company, grew it, sold it to a publicly held firm, ran that organization as a business unit within the publicly held firm, and then started angel investing. And when she came to me, she was almost out the door of the publicly held firm. So we started working together. And one day she said, just want you to know, I turned down sitting on a panel because they were going to record it. And okay, so they're going to record it, but they were going to put the recording up online. And I said, so why did you turn it down? Well, I told them that the video wasn't high enough quality. Well, my client forgot that in my previous career, I was a professional video producer, right? I did that for almost a couple of decades. And I knew she was full of hooey because Zoom video is just fine, thank you. And it's being used professionally. So as consultants, we become therapists and we start probing and digging a little bit, right? And so I said to her, is it possible there's some other reason that you're turning down? Hey, Shelley, you should sit down on this one. Come back to your chair. I need you. I don't think she can hear me. But anyway, I said, is it possible there's another reason that you're not being on the, you're turning down these videos, just sitting on these panels that are going to be recorded? And she said, okay, let me tell you. Back in college, I had a Greek boyfriend. He was just dashing, just this Greek god. And over the years, I've been tracking him. He's really doing super well. And to be honest with you, Roberta, I don't want him to see how I look 25 years later. Bingo, Shelley to the rescue. And that's what we did. I brought her in. She gave her a couple of nice outfits, did her makeup a little bit, gave her a good background, some lighting. I won't say that my client's confidence is any much better, but at least she knows now that she's got a place to go, where she can put on her uniform, and she's not turning that video off, and she's not turning down those opportunities anymore. So ask yourself again, is there something that might be holding you back somewhere and stalling you? Fear, it's a remnant of survival. Back in the day, our proto-humans, we would either eat or be eaten. And that fear that we had then obviously doesn't serve us today. So some of the fear signals that we can recognize, that that little monkey on your back, we're worried what people will think. Perhaps you're worried that you don't know enough, or that some people, and some of my clients even say to me that they feel like an imposter sometimes. And it keeps dogging them. So again, just adopt that growth mindset and ask yourself, what could I do if I were to change? It's not even to change that thinking, but just do X that would then move away from whatever's holding you back. And by the way, everybody in the room has some place, some point, I can guarantee you, that's holding them back somewhere. So you're not alone, you're in good company. So we're going to do an exercise. What limiting belief has been dogging you way too long? This is a question that you're going to answer. And then the second one is, what one thing will you do in the next 48 hours to start moving away from this limiting belief? Okay, everyone. So let's see who'd like to share. Be bold, be brave. David, go ahead.
Yes, my limiting belief is that I think I don't have any limiting beliefs.
Love it.
Okay,
so what are you going to do about that in the next 48 hours, David?
I'm gonna get real. I need an accountability coach.
Oh yeah, there you go. Any accountability coaches in the room? Raise your hand. There you go. Herb's on, Sheila's on. All right, somebody else. Limiting belief. Who's got their hand up? Let's see, Shannon.
My limiting belief is that I'm trying to convince companies that they need to bring humanity to work by bringing in trust and authenticity. And my limiting belief is that those companies see that as a nice to have, and not a need to have. And so it's my limiting belief that I can't convince them otherwise.
What are you going to do about that in the next 48 hours?
I have to think about that a little bit more. I'm a member of a couple different communities and groups that I kind of lean on for support. And so I think I just need to continue to do that. And I just need to keep working my LinkedIn network and staying super visible. And just, I think positive mantras are really helpful too. Mindfulness, things like that, I have a number of tools in that toolbox as well that kind of help me keep grounded and keep me moving forward.
May I offer a quick suggestion?
Yes, please.
Check with McKinsey's research. They have all kinds of research on so-called soft skills and diversity and diversity of thought. They may just have something in there because they show how it makes companies more profitable and improves the bottom line. So put your ideas in the chat if you've got some that you'd like to share. I'm going to go back to a screen share here and make sure that we're all
Roberta, Carol Hines had a comment or question.
Oh, go ahead, Carol.
No, I think that mine was imposter syndrome, which I think a lot of people have, and it takes a lot of different names. And I'm in a pivot right now, and I'm working with an accountability coach. I signed up yesterday. I'm working with a nationally known person who, Debbie Allen, who helps you to become an expert. And we have to figure out what I want to be an expert in because I'm an expert in so many things. So
fantastic.
I'm really, really big on reaching out for help. I wasn't in the past, but I'm really big on all of us. There's so many people like you, Roberta, who know how to guide us to that path that makes us succeed. So
well, Carol, thank you so much. And this is about how sort of the starter about how to know what you want to be known for, and then it'll work really well as you work with your coach. All right, let's see if we can get our slides to advance. There we go. So I mentioned earlier that I have a definition of personal branding, and we heard one earlier. What we often hear about personal branding, and the term seems to be thrown around a lot these days, is that you've got to post on LinkedIn, and you've got to be visible on LinkedIn, you've got to write articles, you've got to do all these kinds of things. And that's absolutely correct. And I like to approach it in a holistic kind of way, you might say, and then put a couple of pieces together. So for me, personal branding is the sum total of how you want to be perceived and how we actually remember you. So let's unpack that. Intentional is what you intend and want people to know about you, how you want to be perceived. So it's how you show up when you walk in the room. What do people think about you in terms of, do you have authority? How are you dressed? When you speak, what comes out of your mouth, how you speak. Those are as Shelley will be the first to say, those are the image edifications of how you come across. But then, of course, it's where do we run into you? And in particular these days, it's going to be online. So are you showing up online? And if you are, how do you show up? And was that intentional on your part? So you control that 100%. Your reputation, or what people say about you when you're not in the room, zero control over that. So of course, the goal here is to take what's intentional and your reputation. So what you intend and what people think about you, and get those two things as closely aligned as possible. And that is going to be something that's a moving target and always organic, but that is really, according to Roberta's definition, what your personal brand is. Now we're going to talk a little bit about purpose, because I want people to understand that thinking about your personal brand, while yeah, you have to do some things to yourself and about yourself, it's really not about you. It really is about making others better off. Sometimes it's called, changing the world, those kinds of things. And that is true. In business, we're looking at what kind of transformations are you able to bring and help for your clients? And when you think in terms of those transformations and look for patterns and look back on that, you'll see that you've really got a purpose about yourself, and that you've often articulated, but perhaps didn't even frame it as a purpose, that drives you and helps you get up every day, kick your heels together and say, yeah, I'm so happy that that particular client is really seeing a difference. So let's take a look at these three people. Greta Thunberg, we know her from being a climate activist, shamed international leaders for not taking care of climate, as she says, for the next generation and generations to come. US Representative John Lewis spent his whole life advocating for people of color and for civil rights and for equity for everybody who needs to have equity in this country and the world. And then we have Malala Yousafzai, who just in the last couple of days has come out about the fact that the Taliban in Afghanistan decided that girls can't go to school, but she almost got herself killed by the Taliban a number of years ago because she wants to get girls an education. So what do all these three have in common, other than the fact that they're giants, global giants? They have a singular focus on purpose. So when you think in terms of your own purpose, and I don't intend you to necessarily be global, that's okay if you want to be, but when you think in terms of your own purpose, ask yourself, and scale this down to your own lane. What is my singular purpose, and how can I be true to that and then communicate it to the world in the things that I say and also in the things that I do? So we're going to go in now to another breakout room. And simple question this time is, how are others better off because of what you do and say? So it could be a purpose statement. You may already have that. How are others better off because of what you do and say? So if you'd like to share anything in the chat, in the name of time, we won't do a public sharing right now, but please put anything that you've got into the chat. Okay, so now we're going to do an in-room exercise, the instant reputation audit. What do they say about you when you're not in the room? What would you like to have them say about you when you're not in the room? Well, we're going to find out. What I'd like you to do is pull up your browser, put in your first name and your last name, and see what shows up on the first page of your Google search. If it's Google, whatever browser your search engine that you're using. The idea is that we want to see, what do others see when they put in your name? What do they see on mine? So as you succeed in getting a first page up with your name, start shouting it out or putting your hands up, and we'll see what shows up.
So I just wanted to jump in. So this is actually quite funny. When I Google myself, Shelley Golden, there is a very famous strip model who is extremely shapely, both on the top front and especially in the back side. And she pretty much dominates the Shelley Golden space. It's been an upward challenge to try to like get myself out there and like all the mediums, but anyhow, I work my best. But she's got like new images of her back end and her front end and her, So
Shelley, excuse me for interjecting. Are you showing up on the first page?
Yes.
You are at least showing up on the first page, Shelley Golden style.
Yes, I am.
Good. Okay. Who else do we have?
Hi, this is Kim Jones, and when I Google Kim Jones, I'm literally on page 4 and I can find nothing about me. But I suspect that probably has a lot to do with the fact that I am named Kim Jones. So I don't know if you have any advice for someone with a common name as to how concerned they should be if they can't find themselves anywhere.
Well, I would be concerned only to the extent that if people want to find you online, in other words, you've been referred and they're going to look you up and they can't find you and they don't know which Kim Jones it is, or they do, but they can't find you, and then perhaps they get frustrated. So some people add a middle initial or maybe spell their name out in full, and you create a URL and have that then point to your website. So I don't know if you'd go for Kimberly or Kimberly middle initial or something like that. If you're on page 4, it is going to take quite a bit of work in terms of publishing and getting Google to its algorithms to find what you're putting up online before you'll actually show up. Are you doing things online? Are you posting?
Yes, but not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot. So if you do a little bit more, maybe you'll start inching up to page 3. So that would be a good thing to try out. So let's see, Ginny, what you got?
Mute. Since I have a different name, there's not a lot of cools. So anyway, I come up first, there's Google Your Business, then me. So I come up of my business with my website. I come up with LinkedIn. I come up as the CEO of my business. And then I'm also an advisor for Small Business Development Center. So I come up as that. So I have 5 different things that comes up when I put in my name.
That's fantastic. One last question I'm going to ask Shelley again, because you can see everyone and I can't, is could everybody raise their hand if there's somebody else who has your name? How many hands are going up?
Oh. Wow.
Quite a few, actually.
Quite a few. Wow.
Yeah,
So
that's good being a cool.
right. So this is your online reputation, folks. So the antidote to this is start publishing, getting out there, whether it's on being on podcast, doing your own podcast, writing, a video, putting out videos. Google loves video, and those of us who are striving to do that, we should, do even more of that. I would love to take more, but if you could just feel free to use the chat. I want you to use it as liberally as possible to share what's happening for you. So we're going to move along, and thank you for playing along here, and plan to do this about once a week. And especially if you're publishing, once you start seeing yourself inching up, it's like, ooh, that feels good. So it will feel good.
Craig, did you want to say something? Was there, or?
I can't take any more because we'll just for the name of time, Shelley, if that's okay. So just put it in the chat, Craig, if you would. Okay, so this is where you go, and if everybody could please be muted, that would really help, and because I'm easily distracted. So thank you so much. All right, so here we have what I call a spectrum, my thought leadership spectrum, where you can decide where you want to be on here, and looking at what your status is right now as a sought after authority, and then looking at that spectrum where you would like to be. A lot of us are towards the tail. We're very good at what we do, damn good at what we do. We're experts, and we're in a category of many. And that probably means that we're doing a great job and not doing much else in terms of, like we were talking earlier, the kinds of things, the publishings, and that's going to make our visibility climb online and get more known to others by speaking and just doing even just networking all over the place can get you more visibility. But we're talking also about visibility into the greater community, and there's a limit to what we can do in terms of networking. So there's that category of many. The minute you do start publishing, and let's say you decide to write a report on something, perhaps you do a simple survey, or you write a special report and you've gleaned information from secondary sources. This doesn't have to be original research, and you publish that, write a press release, and even suggest it to 1 or 2 reporters. And let's say they decide, oh, I'd like to quote you on that. Now you're becoming distinctive. So again, you decide, is that the kind of thing you'd like to aspire towards? Then all the way at the other end of the arrow here is thought leadership. And I know that you had somebody last month who spoke on thought leadership, and I would have attended, but I had a conflicting event, unfortunately. So thought leadership is where now you're aiming to really influence people in a serious way. You want to influence the way they think. You want to influence the way they behave. You want to, in some cases, you want to change the way they think and change the way they behave. To be a thought leader, usually, and some people will agree and disagree, I realize this is all over the map. But when I use the term being a thought leader, this is somebody who really is standing out because they are a fairly quite prolific publisher. Ideally, they've got a book or more than a book. And they really are a go-to person. So people will say, you know, you really got to go to Craig for his speech and presentation skills. There is nobody in the business who's better than he is. And Craig has also written books. And if you really want to amp your image, I don't care where you are in the country or who you are, you've got to go to Shelley Golden. She's your person, you know, run, don't walk. And Shelley is also publishing now, and she's getting letters to the editor published, with articles are getting picked up by big publications. And at some point, I hope she'll have a book. So that's thought leadership. So decide where you want to be on the spectrum, and wherever it is, you'll be coming up with a plan, or at least even on your mind, or even on a napkin. How are you going to do that? What do you need to do? What do I need to do to get there? One of the ways to start with this, and I'm sure you're already doing it, is what I like to call my top 3 C's of LinkedIn thought leadership. It involves commenting, curating, and what I call creating. I'm sure you're doing all 3. What I'm asking you to do is raise the bar a few notches, the way you comment and curate. And I'll speak about creating in a second. And what that means is you've probably been to somebody's news feed and they won an award, and you see all these congratulations, way to go, woohoo, good for you. Doesn't do your brand, your personal brand, any good if you just do that. But if you go in and say, David, congratulations on the award that you just won. I know that you deserved it because, and you say why, give your opinion about why that award, this person won that award, why David really deserved to win it, and the work that he had done. Now you're imparting your opinion, and it just takes a few extra minutes or seconds, depending how fast you write. I'm not a fast writer, so it takes me a little bit of time, you know, and I edit and fuss around with it. So however it takes, it's the intention. It's the intention to say something about your opinions. So you do that in commenting. With curating, you're going to come across some piece in mainstream, check that it's not behind a paywall. You want to post it. You want people to know about this piece. Again, write a little mini opinion introduction above it and say why you think people should read it. And if you disagree with parts of it, say why you disagree. Now you're really injecting your opinion in there. And creating is like curating, except now you're taking something that you had published, and so you're sending people to your particular piece, but you're still using the curation rule, which is, this is what I wrote, here's why I think you'll be interested in this, just as if somebody else had written it. To do all of this means that we have to embrace a curiosity mindset. Now, we probably don't, I'm gonna guess you don't remember when you were a kid, you were curious about everything. It's like that's the way the brain worked. It was just a feeling brain, a sensing brain. And we touched everything, this, I'm gonna put this in my mouth. I'm gonna touch this. This feels this. We were sensing individuals when we were little kids. But then we went to school and got put in chairs and boxes, and we started to be told how we should think. By the time we became adults, we've had the curiosity knocked out of us, right? So what we have to do, if you haven't already, and I'm sure some of you have, but if you haven't, it's start to re-exercise your curiosity muscle. And if I have an article on this, and I'm just remembering now, I should have mentioned it to Shelley, but if you can put your name in the chat if you'd like me to send you the article on curiosity, because I've got a few things that you can do that will really start exercising it. And then I've also got a curiosity quotient, which is just sort of a little quick assessment. How do you rate on curiosity right now? But the idea is that to reclaim your curiosity, because really you need to know your field, right? You've got to know it really well, but then you also need to know the trends in your field. So knowing it today and where it is, and then the trend, where's it going? Perhaps you're going to be that trend maker yourself. or you're following other people's trends, but knowing what they're saying, vow to be a perpetual learner. And that's where your curiosity comes into this, where you're going to sop up things. And yeah, don't worry that there's a lot out there, but I really want you to be curious about paying attention to the news, paying attention to culture, paying attention to what other people say. And you'll realize very quickly the things, if you're not used to doing this, that you can filter out and compartmentalize. And I guarantee you, you won't be overwhelmed because your brain will naturally stop. But intentionally say, yeah, I got to be a little more engaged if you're not already engaged. Now, these two things, you may have heard this, to be interested and be interesting. Well, being interested is part of that curiosity. You really want to know. That's essentially being an interested person. Being interesting is having this knowledge, having these ideas, being an individual that it motivates people to want to know and speak with you. That makes you an interesting person. So embrace a curiosity mindset, and you'll be well on your way to really giving your personal brand yet another push up. All right, so 7 steps to building a powerful personal brand. Build a personal brand that's based on your purpose, which I can't wait to see the chat, which I can't see right now, and see what you've come up with. Be very clear on what you want to be known for. Now, I don't say that glibly because I keep going through myself what I want to be known for. And I realize that this is in flux for everybody. Some people are able to settle on it for a while, and some of us are constantly juggling it. But it's okay to stick to it, to get into that lane, and to want to be known for something, at least for a particular while. Then, when you couple it with your purpose, you're able to come up with a core message. Where's your core message going to show up? On your website, in any of your materials? It's going to come up in the things that you write about in your content, because who you are is going to be your whole persona is going to be present in either your writing or when you show up as a guest on a podcast. That core message will always be there. And then, of course, in settings like this, when you've just got 30 seconds or so to tell people, they want to quickly understand what it is that you do, so that in their brain they go, aha, okay, I get that. And it's not always going to click, and that's okay. So that's why we just keep working on it. It'll always be a work in progress. We just did the reputation audit, and I want to thank you all for doing that exercise. And you understand now that really that's your online reputation. And when somebody comes to look you up because they've been referred to you, probably the first thing they're going to do is put your first last name in, and you want them to be able to see where you are and to go to your LinkedIn profile at least. So even, I believe, and somebody can correct me on this, let's say you were to just start publishing and commenting on LinkedIn, then your profile might jump into the first page on LinkedIn, even though the rest of you perhaps is stuck on the 3rd or 4th page. So put it in the chat if you think that might happen, or you think that, no, that's not going to work. I'd love to know. We talked about thought leadership and influence, that really with the spectrum, you decide where you want to be in terms of your standing as an authority in your field of expertise, and whether, yeah, I'd like to be known as a thought leader, or I'm happy to be distinctive. That's going to be really good for me. Put together a visibility plan. So content and visibility, essentially, you're just going to laundry list the things that you're going to do. And that laundry list might just be 1 or 2 things, but that's okay. Put it down, because if you don't, it's going to be hard to carry out your plan. And carrying it out, if you do all the above, think about it, and you start doing all that planning, you know, how we do all the messaging and do all these exercises. And then we go back to our desks and get busy with the work and answer emails like, oh my God, it's the end of the day. How did the day slip by? Be sure to figure out, put it on the calendar, just one thing that you'll do, maybe just for 10 minutes every day or every other day, that starts you carrying out your plan. Questions? Do we have any questions? Yes, Kim.
I would love to learn how to consult with you or learn more about your services.
Well, thank you very much. That was a very public declaration, but thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to have oh, I see what you're saying. I have a slide afterwards. So it has my information, and I can also put it in the chat in a moment. Is that what you were
That's what I'm looking
asking?
for.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Duh. Okay, thank you.
Sorry if I put
It
you
sort of
on.
just came out. Yeah, so like freight train. What? All right. Who else? Questions, clarifications, thoughts, declarations, platitudes,
Roberta, Michael, what?
disagreements. Go ahead, Yael. Yael.
And
Oh,
I
okay.
was wondering if you'd be.
Hold on just a second.
I
Yael-
can wait for I can wait for Michael.
No,
that's
Yael,
fine.
you've got your hand up, and so then whoever was next.
Roberta,
Okay.
can you stop sharing your screen so everybody could see everybody?
Okay. There we go.
Okay, and now you could put everybody in gallery view. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, and excuse me, yeah.
Oh, that's okay.
You'll be next, Michael. Good to see you. Okay, Yael.
So, this ties in what you were saying about Purple Cow and also with the audit. So, I have some past lives. So when I bring up my first page of Google search, in addition to my consulting work, it's got my past career as a children's author, which on the surface you might think, oh, that's not connected, but it's kind of like no such thing as bad publicity, right? I mean, I think what makes us each unique is the unique combination of skills. If I take any one of my skills, there are thousands of people who do that, but no one on this planet has the unique combination that I have. And so I think that finding the purpleness, and I wrote in the chat before, I sometimes get frustrated because I've been doing this applied improvisation work for more than 20 years. And I was a purple cow back then. And everybody said, you do what? And now there's zillions of people doing it. And I get frustrated because most of them are better at marketing it than I am, even though I have more experience. And so I think that keeping in mind, maybe you have some words of wisdom of how do we take that combination of uniqueness from all these different aspects of our life and put it out there without diluting the message. A lot of people say get very clear, get very narrow, but I'm kind of thinking maybe the answer for me at least is being broad with my unique combination.
Oh, it's an excellent question, Yael, and I'll try and do it just in a couple of sentences here. It's finding the connecting threads and weaving them together. I've got some clients where we've got that, and it's like, well, I'm this and I'm this and I'm this. How do we pull all these pieces together? So it's really working the commonalities, and you'll see how you can weave them together. So we can chat about that, and I'd love to. Okay, to move on to Michael. Michael, hello, Michael. What more? So lovely to see
Hello,
you.
Roberta. We've known each other for a number of years. And you're the
Donkey's
reason I'm
years,
here
as they
this
say.
morning. And thank you. I was just wondering if you would share your slide deck.
I'd be very happy to share my slide deck. So I'll send it to Shelley later on.
Points in it, and I've always admired the work you do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. I'm honored and humbled to hear that. Let's see, we have time. Do you have any more time for more questions, Shelley?
We need to wrap up, and I think Ulrika, we we want to thank you, and Ulrika, I think
I'm not quite done.
Comments?
I have my wrap, if I may. So may I go back to screen share? So one thing I learned at National Speakers Association, Craig Harrison, is never finish a presentation on questions, ever. So we don't finish our presentations on questions. So I shall go back to screen share here and hope things move along. All right, so I offer a complimentary consultation. So if you'd like to raise your profile as an authority in your field, or you'd like to just do a check-in and see where we can do some tweaking, I'd love to chat with you, and I promise you it will be pure advice and definitely no BS. I'd love to say that without the acronym, but Shelley can attest to the no BS zone, and those of you who know me. And it will be one value stuffed hour. So there you've got my email address, and I can put my phone number in the chat as well. So to conclude, I love this quote from Helen Keller. As you may recall, at a very young age, she became deaf and blind and then dedicated her whole life to advocacy. And she says this: true happiness isn't attained through self-gratification, that me, but through fidelity to a worthy purpose. So we talked about purpose here, having a purpose-driven personal brand, that it's not really about us, but how can we make others better off? And I know you're already doing that. Personal branding is about finding the way to articulate it and tell the world about that in a way that makes sense to them, and so that you can continue spreading the good word and the good deeds and the great work that you do. Thank you so much. You've been a wonderful audience, and I will turn it back to Shelley and Ulrika.
All right. Am I unmuted? Yes, I am. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Roberta. That was a lot of things for us to consider, and in a way that we can show up more fully and be known for what we want to be known for. I love to hear from a few people from the overall session, from Roberta's presentation, from Volker's, from Creating Connections. What are some things that you're taking away from today's meeting? I'm going to stop the share again so I can see you all. So just hear from a few people. What's something that you actually will do differently or incorporate somehow in your business based on what you experienced tonight? Tonight, I keep saying tonight, it's still morning.